Okay, Rabia, thank you very much. Okay, so you understand now, in order to speak English, if you don't know grammar, so still you can express yourself. You can talk to other people very well, because the point is that you have to express yourself, and the more you practice, the more you express yourself, with the passage of time, you start learning grammar. Grammar automatically emerges when you are speaking, when you are practicing. This is the basic role of grammar in spoken English. But in written English, we have to learn grammar consciously. Well, since we know that when a child is born, what comes first? Always speech comes first. Okay, for example, written language doesn't come first. When a child is born, what happens? He speaks first. Okay, he doesn't write first. Writing comes later on. He speaks, he listens first, then he speaks, and after that he reads. But writing comes at the end. So actually spoken English is not a grammatical affair, is not a grammatical, for example, technical point. It involves mental and neurological or physiological process. I mean, your mind and your brain involves much more in spoken English than your grammar involves in spoken English. I don't deny the importance of grammar, okay? I don't say that grammar is nothing. I don't say that we shouldn't study grammar. I don't say that grammar is bad, for example. I don't say that it's evil. I say we should study grammar, but if we want to learn spoken English, we shouldn't start with grammar. We should start speaking the language first. Just as we speak, and when we keep on speaking, so language automatically comes up. Azhar, are you there? Welcome, Azhar. Azhar, welcome. Okay, that's right. So it's actually a mental and neurological process. Now these are the basic concepts of English. I mean, the concepts of spoken English actually. I mean, I'm not focusing English in general. I'm talking about spoken English. So in spoken English, you have to focus more on speaking rather than focusing more on grammar. So our next point is that spoken English is the key to English as a whole. One thing very important. Some people say that if we want to learn English, we have to start with grammar, we have to start with vocabulary. Okay? But remember one thing you must keep in your mind, that spoken English is the key to English as a whole. When you start learning spoken English, so automatically you start developing a mental lexicon. So what is lexicon? You start develop a mental lexicon. What is lexicon? Can anybody tell me? What is lexicon? What is lexicon? A mental dictionary. No, it's not Mexican. It's actually lexicon. Lexicon. Okay, well, you said lexicon. So now, when you are speaking, when you start practicing spoken English, what happens? You start developing a kind of mental dictionary. A mental dictionary. So mental dictionary automatically evolves when you are speaking, when you start learning speaking. Another point is that it's not simply, lexicon. With the passage of time, when you are learning English, it also develops a kind of mental grammar. What is mental grammar? So mental grammar, it means speaking English automatically develops a kind of mental grammar in the student if he's practicing it, if he's learning it much. So automatically you start developing a kind of mental grammar. So it means lexicon is basically dictionary, and it refers to vocabulary. So lexicon refers to the vocabulary of a language. It refers to the vocabulary of a language. So through spoken English, you start, when you are speaking English, when you start speaking English, when you go on this venture, you start learning vocabulary automatically. When you have lots of vocabulary, you actually build a kind of lexicon in your brain. And when this lexicon, it means a kind of mental dictionary, is built in the brain, your language becomes complete. So through speaking, you can develop this. So, and through spoken English, you can also develop a kind of mental grammar. We are going to focus now on how we can learn English. So now we're going to study the mastering formula. Since we know that English is important and we have to learn it, and since we say that spoken English should be learned, then how can we learn spoken English? So I'm going to give you a neo mastery formula. Through this formula you can speak English, you can speak English very well. Well, don't think that I'm going to give you a traditional way of exercise. Don't think that I'm going to tell you something that you must study grammar, you must practice this way, that way. I'm going to talk about something very different. Something, for example, not much vocabulary. For example, something which doesn't relate to the books, something which doesn't relate to library, it doesn't relate to school, it doesn't relate to the teacher. I'm going to tell you something which relates to you actually. So if you want to learn English, the first point that you must keep in your mind, so what's formula? Formula is the way to do something. I can write it down, don't worry. Formula, a method. So just pre-think, we can have a discussion, okay? Don't worry, just pre-think says no grammar, no English. Don't worry about that. I'll come to the point. Okay, so the first point to speak English is to develop confidence.